I'm also on that message.
I have a pint glass.
No, suck.
I got it just to the top. Look at that.
Every episode.
Seriously, I have a full-ass pint glass.
Has there been an episode? I think the only one was last episode. Nobody's heard it yet, which is, I don't think we spilled anything.
Drunk bitches be like. Drunk bitches be like. Drunk bitches be like.
Welcome to Drunk Bitches Be Like. I'm Brandy.
I'm Mindy.
And this is all about two women, a few beers, some tipsy stories, and some drunk ideas.
Welcome. Have you seen that they're going to do a reboot of some of these 80s shows? So there's supposedly going to be a reunion of Saved by the Bell. Oh. And then I have heard that Soleil Moon Frye is coming back to, I thought she was going to be like a mom or like I forget what the guy's name was, like be the old dude to a young kid.
Yeah.
Whose name was Punky Brewster, but apparently they're bringing Punky Brewster back, and she's Punky Brewster,
right?
But older.
Yeah, so I don't remember specifically what the premise of the show is, nor do I want to watch the reboot.
Okay, so let me get in on this. The original show was that she was an orphan. Mm-hmm. And she wore odd mismatched clothing. Uh-huh. And she was staying with Walter Chester.
Okay.
I don't remember what the hell his name was.
Some old
guy?
White dude, I'm assuming.
An old guy.
Yeah.
And then her best friend was Cherry, who was, I think, the child of a single mother downstairs. Mm-hmm. And they were besties. And then at some point they got a dog named Brandon.
Ah. Yeah. Punky Brewster has a weird history with me because it is an 80s show.
You mean the show, not actually Soleil Moon Frye?
Yeah,
you had some shit go down.
Soleil Moon Frye, I'm sure she's a lovely human being. But when I was younger, we've talked about my mom a few times, and probably didn't get into the whole she doesn't like swearing.
Right.
And things like that. She also has an aversion to calling things what they are anatomically.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look, I was in the medical field and I still call it a hoo-ha because I think it's funny. Not because I'm uncomfortable with the term vagina. I just think that hoo-ha is funnier.
Everybody has different ways of referencing things So like,
do not teach your children to call it a cookie or a monkey or muffin.
Like any of those things. It's just, here's the problem with it. When you call things that when you're younger and then when you grow up and you learn what those things are, there is a very point where you're like, what?
I know. You're asking your kid, did he touch your cookie? How do they know the difference?
Right.
They're like, yes, he got all up in my chocolate chips.
And I understand that it seems very abrupt to be like vagina, penis when you're talking to a 2-year-old. But here's the thing.
Not if you would normalize it.
But if it's a normal thing, then it's like, okay, well, this is everything. So my mom she's very sensitive to those things. And she's very, she doesn't like talking about those things. Sex to her is not a topic.
Makes her very uncomfortable.
It makes her very uncomfortable. So any parts or things like that are involved in sex are also very uncomfortable topics. So when it comes to those body parts,
I don't want to make any speculations, but okay.
She calls them different things. So when I was a young child, she referenced, instead of saying vagina, she would say punky. And that's what they called it. So growing up, that's what it was called.
Thought it was a vagina named Brewster?
Right. So then Punky Brewster comes out and I was like, why would anybody name their kid after that? Why is that a thing? And then it's like you come to know that that's not actually what it's called and it's called something else. And then you're like, well, why am I calling it this? Because that's somebody's name. And that seems rude.
And then you grow up and realize that boys name their junk or girls name it for them. And then they just live with that name. And it's usually like Bob or Chuck.
Well, and so it's gotten really funny lately because, so I have young nephews that we've talked about, and my mom had 2 girls. So now she has 2 little boys that she's looking after, babysitting on the weekdays and stuff. And so the one little one, he's now 3. And as he's been growing up, she's been trying to help potty train him and stuff like that. And so my mom didn't, of course she didn't call it a penis. So she called it his dink, which I'm like, all right, of all the things that you can pick to call it, I guess that one's all right. Cause I can't imagine somebody being named Dink, but you never know.
So clearly you don't know anybody from the South. I'm sure there's somebody in my mother's family who has the nickname of Dink.
Yeah. But it's really funny because my sister and her husband are a little bit more on the side of like, we need to call things what they are so that he knows what they are. So it's really funny. So as a 3-year-old, he's very much so aware that his grandma calls it one thing and his dad calls it another. So like... There was one day, and I forget what they were talking about, but for some reason he referenced his penis, but he goes, Grandma calls it a dink, but Daddy calls it a penis. So he knows it by both names now.
I still find it funny when little boys, no matter how much you use the term testicles, eventually somebody tells them that they're balls, and then that's the only thing they want to call them.
It. Yep.
That's it. And then I'm an adult, and I still laugh at the word balls if you use it in a sentence.
Yeah.
So, no, I can't imagine. So you thought that you were like...
It was very confusing at first, because I was like, wait, why would somebody... like name their daughter that?
So when you told me that you were scarred by Punky Brewster, and we left it there, I was just like, let me write that down and keep that to yourself. I thought the story was going to go with like at one point during the series, the dog Brandon dies.
Oh no!
Or no! Oh wait a minute! Either the man or the dog dies, one or the other.
Nope.
And I was like,
her name was straight up just like offensive to me, and I was like, wait, why would somebody name her that? And then she was an orphan.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's even sadder. Like she's named after my private parts, and also she doesn't have any family.
Orphaned Vagina Brewster. Oh my God.
I mean, yeah. So and the funny part is though, even now as an adult, like I clearly know what my body parts are called now. But even like when they came out with the news that, oh, we're going to do a reboot of Punky Brewster, I was like, oh, it just makes me cringe. I'm like, oh, why do we have to do that?
Oh my God.
All right. So this is what I've never understood. Like you're getting married, right? This is like a celebration of you and your new husband.
It's a lot of goddamn work.
I mean, you put in all the work. You have to pay a crap ton to feed a bunch of people to have them show up. And it's like, I don't understand why you have to pay for other people to eat. Like,
because you can't charge $20 at the door.
Well, no. And I understand that. But also, can't you be like, hey, everybody go get your own fucking food beforehand and then come to the wedding and like celebrate us?
So there is somewhat of a protocol. Had we gotten married earlier in the day, and literally had I realized that like the bar opens at 1, I probably would have moved the date back or moved the time back. But we're still under curfew. Yeah. When I made the plans, we were still under curfew.
Okay.
Unless there's a window of time where you can be like, hors d'oeuvres will be served. So it's like between 1 and 4.
Okay.
And then anything after that, you're supposed to have some kind of meal. And I'm not having a sit down dinner because I didn't want to send out cards that were like chicken or steak. I'm not having either. I'm having one of those.
Right.
Chicken or pot roast.
Right. Whatever you want.
And the only reason we chose pot roast and chicken is because it's something we will eat.
Right. And if there's leftovers, you're taking that shit home.
And we specifically ordered from a black-owned business.
Okay.
So, but then they were like, do you want full service? And I was like, no, that makes me very uncomfortable. I mean, like, I'll pay you for it anyway, but can you not do it? And they were like, no. That'd be unethical. Yeah, no, my white guilt got to me and I was like, no, you cannot serve me. Can I help you with something? But we specifically picked out the businesses that we picked out. But you're right. Like trying to figure out what people will eat. At least I can say the menu is something I would eat. And if y'all don't like it, then whatever. And I got coleslaw and salad because I wanted them. But the alternative was that I did all of the hors d'oeuvres myself.
Yeah.
And then hired somebody just for the hot food. And that would have meant all day on the 16th, I would have been cutting vegetables and fruit. And I didn't want to do that. So my mom was like, maybe you should just pay a caterer.
I don't know. The whole thing just seems absurd to me of how much money people put into weddings that it's like to serve other people. It's like supposed to be your day, but literally 90% of the day is you catering to other people.
Yeah.
And
I feel horrible about it because I, at one point, thought to myself, I'm not going to get to have any fun. And my mom said, why? Because I was freaking out just a little bit. I was like, I'm paying all this money. Mm-hmm. I think I'm like $5,000 or $6,000 in at this point.
Yeah.
I still have to pay for the bar. I still have to pay the photographer. Mm-hmm. Tips for everybody because I forgot that I have to tip the bar staff because they don't get part of the room rental.
Yeah.
And he's like, how much do you want to do that? And I was like, 20% for everybody. I don't give a shit. 20% for everybody. I'm like, if there's 2 bartenders, not each of them gets 20%, but they can split. I mean, it's like $150 to tip them 20%. So I'm like, everybody gets that. I'm like the guy who's doing the officiate. You have to pay for everybody, which is completely reasonable. Everybody's providing a service, but
Right.
God damn, like it literally nickels and dimes you to death.
Yeah.
Run away. If you have siblings who have, he's the only boy.
Yeah.
He's the baby.
Yeah.
I'm an only child.
Yeah.
We couldn't take this away from our mothers.
Yeah.
We talked about getting married at the courthouse and then just having a ceremony.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like a reception, probably. I was like, number one, if we try and go through with the ceremony, you can't keep a secret. He cannot lie to save his life, which is awesome in our relationship because he is never going to lie to me about shit. I know, like when he cannot even tell like a white lie.
Yeah.
He 100% is uncomfortable with it. When he doesn't want to be someplace, I'm like, well, just tell them blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I can't. I'm like, well, the alternative is you just go to the place and you don't want to be there. And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go to the place. Whereas me, some of you are my friends and family. I've probably lied to you about something because it's rude to say, I don't want to.
Right.
I don't want to.
Right.
Like that little sticker or whatever that says, I'm sorry I was late. I didn't want to come.
Right.
But to be honest, I'm late to things I want to do.
I will say I've gotten a little bit better about, I mean, I don't know if it's better, but I have a few friends now that we've had the conversation. They're like, look, if I'm asking you to do something and you don't want to do it, just say I'd rather not, or I don't wanna, or whatever. And so I've gotten to the point now where I have some friends when they'll be like, hey, do you want to do this on a Friday night? And I'm like, not really. Like, I kind of just want to relax at home.
Right.
And they're like, okay, that's cool, which is great because I'm like, oh, that's awesome because I'm really a homebody. So like, you know, I want to go out every once in a while and do things, but like there's times where I'm like, I don't really want to. And I 100% agree with you. Like I've lied to literally everybody at some point and been like, no, I got to do this because I legit just didn't want to do anything. And I was like, I'm sitting at home on my butt because that's what I want to do right now. But like, it's nice to get to the point where you've got some people that you can be like, no, I just want to be a lazy ass and sit at home. And they're like, all right, cool. Yeah. Go for it.
I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
For the most part, I go places that he doesn't want to go. I love my friends.
Yeah.
And he likes my friends. And there are some mutual friends that we have that he loves.
Yeah.
But I can say this because they don't listen. There are some people, and God bless them, because when I tell them, like I straight up tell them why he isn't there.
Yeah.
They get to a point of being drunk that he just cannot. He's like, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to be near them. They got sloppy. I don't like it. It makes him uncomfortable. And so there's a group of friends where I always show up for stuff when I'm invited. I'm kind of a peripheral friend in that group.
Yeah.
So when I get invited, I show up. He does not.
Yeah.
Unless I specifically need him to be there. He's like, I would rather not.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. I think part of it is because he thinks like one day I'm going to get in a fight and he's going to have to defend my honor. And I was like, no, I got it. I'm good. I don't need your help. Just bail. I need bail. And then one of us has to stay out of jail.
Yeah.
So come get me. I'm not going to last in jail. That's not going to work for me. I'm too old to go to jail. If I was in my 20s, I would probably go to jail and whip somebody's ass, but nah, not now. But no, so he doesn't want to do shit. So I make his excuses for him. Actually, I guess I don't even make excuses. I'm like, he didn't want to be here because you guys get drunk.
Yeah. And
it's not that he doesn't drink. He doesn't drink like you guys. And he's not the same kind of drunk as they are.
Yeah.
So
he seems more of like a mellow.
He gets chatty.
Oh, okay.
Because he's not very chatty.
Well, yeah, he's not very chatty at all. So, like, yeah, him being chatty, I feel like is everybody else's normal, like...
I wait until he gets drunk and then I start conversations with him that he won't have with me while he's sober.
Nice.
And he agrees to a bunch of shit while he's drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Like, win-win for me.
So one more thing I have to apologize for on my apology tour this episode. So let's see here. First of all, I apologize for the inconsistency for the releases. Second of all, any of you who have been listening and recently started listening and then had we're just overloaded with ads and things. We are currently in the process of trying to monetize some things with the podcast, and we're still learning. So when we did the automatic thing, it clearly went a little overboard. So we are trying to adjust and make edits and things to that as we go.
That was my fault. I turned it on.
Well, you turned it on, and then I optimized it, which apparently optimizing things is not the way to optimize things.
2 progressive ads back to back. I'm like,
yeah. So we're working on fixing that.
If you could at least listen to a few seconds of each commercial, that would be great because we get impression payments. Yeah. So far, we've earned 52 cents.
Woohoo! Yeah. So hang with us. I'm working on getting that whole situation amended, and you'll still have ads, but hopefully they will be ads that are during breaks and speeches instead of like right in the middle of us talking, and they will be less so than what they are now. So,
and we signed up to be okay with the adult ads, and I don't mean like strippers and sex workers. That's fine.
I mean,
if they wanted to advertise, I would be happy to support them with that. But if they also don't have liquor advertisements, which I feel like would be more in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, we need to
if you have friends that have a bar, we pay for our own drinks unless somebody wants to pay for them, but then that becomes a legal issue.
Yeah.
So if we pay for our own drinks and you give us a semi-quiet place because our mics actually don't pick up a lot of ambient noise, we would like to come drink in your friend's bar.
That's true. And
they get free advertising, or we won't mention them at all because they've listened to the episodes and they're like, I don't want to be associated, but you can come here.
Yeah. So thank you for listening, but also patience is very appreciated with the ads.
Back in the day, Jimmy Pardo, he still has his podcast, Never Not Funny. Mm-hmm. But you used to have to pay for it. And then there was, God, I can't remember his name. Kevin Pollak. There's a couple of bits he has that I like, but for the most part, I wouldn't pay for shit. Unless he's in a movie. I like him as an actor.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know who Kevin Pollak is, he is the little lawyer guy that is in A Few Good Men. So he's on like the Tom Cruise side.
Yeah.
So he's the little guy. And then if you don't know him from that, you know him from his bit about Christopher Walken and I love marsupials. Because they're fast. Oh, no, wait a minute. I think it's marsupials. I love marsupials because they're fast.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I recognize him from outside of that. Now that you said...
Oh, if you've seen Mom... Do you ever watch the sitcom Mom?
I started watching it, but then we got rid of cable and went to Netflix only and everything else. And so then that's when I stopped watching it.
It wasn't on cable. It was just on Channel 7.
Okay, so here's the thing. I live in a hole.
Okay.
And we don't get, I have a tuner on my TV, but, even with it's very sketchy.
Okay, so Mom, he was Christy's bio dad.
Oh, okay.
And... he just plays bit parts. I mean, not bit parts. He's a character actor.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember what the hell else he charactered.
I know, but after you said A Few Good Men, I was like, oh yeah, I know that dude. And I'm like, wait, what else do I know him from? Because he's been in a ton of crap.
Yeah. On Bob and Tom, he has a few bits that are really popular, like it's mostly Christopher Walken.
Okay. Nice.
About him having disjointed thoughts. He was like, so you interview me, and remember, Christopher Walken has disjointed thoughts. And he's like, hey, tell us about your new project. And he's like, Frankenstein never scared me, but marsupials do because they're fast. Fuck is that? But he also tells a story about giving Christopher Walken a ride home, and he auto started his car. And apparently, Walken was like, "What's that?" Obviously, I can't do impressions except for Elmo.
So I've started enjoying these things. So my partner, he's big into watching YouTube videos and things like that.
It's a rabbit hole.
Oh, it is. It's a huge rabbit hole. And there's a few things, though, that he watches consistently that I really have started to enjoy. One is pitch meetings. Ryan George. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. So he does pitch meetings, which is basically him pitching to himself, but like he acts as like an executive of like Disney Studios or Marvel or,
right.
you know, whatever else. And he'll come in as like the screenwriter.
So he's like, here's a rabbit.
Yeah. He's like, all right, so I've got a movie idea for you. Okay, tell me about it. Okay, so we're going to have like this guy and he's gonna build an iron suit. What? Yeah, and he's gonna start like flying around and like blowing shit up. Oh, I like it. Okay, this is great. And so like he does like pitch movies for all like the Marvel movies and everything else, and they're really good and I really enjoy them. But the thing that the other day we were watching, so I walked in, he was watching 2012, which I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's this John Cusack movie from like back in the day.
Oh, it's the end of the world.
Yeah, and it's like the
climate thing
heated up and like everything.
So I have to tell you, I love John Cusack.
Oh, I love him.
I love him, but that movie is like right in his wheelhouse. So when I was more right leaning because I was misled in my youth, when I was, speaking of which, G. Gordon Liddy died, and you probably don't know who that is, but I used to listen to him on the radio, which is why I was warped into conservatism. But as I was moving to the left side of the spectrum, I still follow John Cusack on Twitter, and he is like all the way at the end of left.
Oh, really?
All the way. I respect him. I respect his opinion. He's allowed to have an opinion. I hate people who are like, shut your mouth and just act. Why? They're no less of an American citizen than
they're
you.
allowed
They
to
just
say
have a
whatever they
bigger
want.
platform than you. And you commented on it so that you could get a bigger platform by commenting on their shit. So riding those coattails. But he is like, but after Wag the Dog, some of his movies got a little like... So 2012.
So 2012 is this crazy ass action movie where it is like, okay, so the inner core of the earth is heating up because of climate change and everything else.
Does he have to like go find his kids or something?
Yeah, and so he's divorced and like he's got 2 kids and the wife's with this new doctor who's a plastic surgeon, and basically like the Titanic, not Titanic. Tectonic.
So he was on a Titanic plane.
He was on a Titanic plane. The tectonic
Rose
plates.
jumped off. Jack died.
But I guess they're shifting, but like it's some ridiculous, stupid thing. Like they're shifting like 1 foot.
And they're causing tsunamis.
But it's causing tsunamis and earthquakes and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the entire movie is literally, it's in a car driving away from an earthquake. It's in a plane flying away from an earthquake. You're in a bus driving away from a volcano.
You're in a building running away from a cracking building.
So the entire thing is just one chase scene after another of like running away from earthquakes, volcanoes,
just pops your
whatever.
adrenaline up, even though you know it's fake.
It's just the entire thing. And there's scientists throughout the entire movie that are like predicting things, but none of the scientists are ever correct. I mean, they're correct about it, but the timeline is always like severely like, wrong. Well, this is going to happen in 2 years. Oh shit, that happened in like 3 months. My bad. Like, so it's a constant like... So, all right, getting back to YouTube. So after he was watching this movie, I walked into him watching this movie, and I had seen it before, and it was the first time he'd seen it, and I was like, oh, you've never seen this before. And so I'm just sitting there enjoying watching him watch it because I've seen everything. And I'm
so
like,
I have to ask, was he watching it as part like, what the fuck?
Kind of. So like he was cycling through all the movies and stuff that are on Netflix or Amazon or whatever else.
Reality.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of thing, he would be like, well, yeah, I mean, it might happen a little at a time, but this is never going to happen.
Right. Well, he likes a lot of the sci-fi stuff and everything. So I feel like, when you're in the Amazon, Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever you're in, when you start watching certain things, it like recommends the other things to watch. And because he watches a lot of sci-fi stuff and whatever, like it recommended it. And so it was like, okay, yeah, I'll watch this. So he did. But then immediately, as soon as he finished it, he went on YouTube, and there is a channel where it's called Cinemasins.
Yeah.
And it's like everything wrong with 2012 in whatever many minutes. It's just, if you've never, so if you're not a YouTube person and you've never got on there, I highly recommend any movie you love or even any movie you hate, go on and watch Cinemasins and do everything wrong with, because they tear apart these movies, and it is freaking hilarious. You get on there and it's just like 12 minutes of him going, running away from this and running away from this. And they like tally up different sins. And he's like, I'm giving this one 50 sins because anybody have any arguments? We've done this 3 times now. And like, it's like Woody Harrelson, just plain Woody Harrelson. And they just put, like, gave him a pickle and said, this will make you look gross. Like, there's a sin. So it's really, like, highly recommend. If you have the time, go onto YouTube and do Cinemasins. It's fantastic.
Well, now I have to go watch it I need to go look up Cinemasins Zombieland because when you talk about Woody Harrelson.
Oh, yeah.
The Zombieland movies are 2 of my favorite things because
I love them. They're great.
Fucking Woody Harrelson is out of his mind.
Right.
But I love him.
Yeah.
I am the only person in the world who loved the movie he was in called The Cowboy Way.
Never seen it.
I was in a white elephant exchange and somebody got it for a gag gift and I was super happy to keep it. So I was like, I love The Cowboy Way. So yeah, out of his mind. And then I love Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like he's so deadpan and like angsty and
yeah. I will say I wasn't a huge fan of his until I saw Zombieland, and then I was like, okay, I like this kid.
Oh, I did like not Catch Me If You Can. That's Leo DiCaprio, who I don't like. I don't like Leo.
The card
the magician
thing.
Yeah.
What the hell is
Now
it
You
called?
See Me.
Now you see me. Yeah.
Yeah. Now You See Me.
I loved those movies.
I like those too because
and
they're
I love Mark
completely
Ruffalo.
improbable.
So yeah.
Oh, Mark Ruffalo is hot.
So good. Yeah.
I don't know what it is about him, but then I watched Zodiac and it got like.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Is
more
he
intense.
If he's a bad guy, I don't want to see
he's
it.
the one in Zodiac. No, he's not the bad guy. I think he's the reporter.
Is he the detective?
He's the reporter who keeps getting like information. So it's completely fictionalized,
right?
But like it would be as if he were the reporter who was getting notes specifically
Jake
from the
Gyllenhaal
Zodiac
was
killer.
in that too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do feel like I should watch
because
that.
I think he thought that Jake Gyllenhaal was the Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know what it is. I also do not find Jake attractive.
I mean,
he's quirky.
I find him okay.
He's droopy dog attractive.
Before I say this and people get all up in arms.
We are moving on to the piss you off pop culture version.
The movie Prince of Persia, I understand the casting and everything was terrible, but Jake Gyllenhaal in that movie was super hot.
I felt that he was hot in Jarhead. Actually, I lived in Panama City when Jarhead came out. And some of my Bible Belt friends went to go see it and they were like, well, I liked it, but I did not like the cursing. And I was like, I have news. And they were like, it cannot be that bad. And I was like, I have news for you. If you put 30 guys together with no women, they say fuck a lot.
Yeah.
And they talk about some nasty ass shit. They may not mean it.
Plus, weren't they in a war zone?
Yes.
I mean, you're getting shot at daily. You're going to use swear words.
Oh my God, I have a hard time with those movies. Do you remember Black Hawk Down?
Yes.
So I cried through the entire thing. I went with my friend Ed. I can say his name because he doesn't listen to this and none of you know who Ed is. And yet you all know an Ed. So I went with my friend Ed. Maybe it's your friend Ed, but whatever.
Also, sidebar, loved the TV show, Ed.
Yeah. So, God damn you. So we went to see Black Hawk Down and there were, God. And then I saw a documentary. So they all tied in together, except the documentary came out after the movie. So I went to see Black Hawk Down. And what really upset me is that it was a portrayal of a real life situation. And they were like they had interviewed people that were in
that situation,
Somalia at that time. And they were actually portraying anybody who was shown as deceased in the movie was actually a soldier who died.
Oh, wow.
During the episode or during that, goddamn, that activity.
Right.
And then some of them were like amalgamations of like several people. So anybody who's alive. So like oh my God, that line where he's like, courage isn't going out there. Courage is coming back and then knowing what you're going back into and still going.
Right.
He was like, I don't hold any man. It was before Tom Sizemore was a complete fucking drug addict. But that whole thing I loved, but I cried literally for like 98 minutes or whatever the runtime is. And my friend Deb was like, what is wrong with you? Keep in mind, this is the same guy who suggested I go to the bathroom before like the mouse scene in Green Mile. And at the time they did like the dry sponge thing. He was like, you should go pee. And I'm like, I don't have to pee. And he's like, you should go try. So I'm like, I don't understand why you don't know why I'm crying. It's because it was a real life thing and they're portraying real life people. And I cannot handle the intensity of knowing that somebody experienced this. Right. I fucking cried my eyes out for Boys in the Hood because I cannot handle the experiences. Some people are having this exact experience. Yeah. Breaks me out in hives. I'm probably turning red while we're talking about it. But no, I mean, I can't. Yeah. I can watch the worst fiction movies you've ever seen. I like horror. I like, by the way, The Ascent is the best horror movie ever. Or The Descent, not The Ascent. That's going up.
I can't do horror movies. I will say the one that screwed me up the most, though, was Insidious.
Really?
Yeah. That screwed me up so bad.
I don't know. You really should watch The Descent.
I had nightmares for weeks. This is why I can't watch horror movies, because I have nightmares. Like I
can tell you that I watched The Descent through an Afghan.
Then no, that could not be anywhere near my home because I will.
It got to a certain point that I was watching through the holes in a crocheted blanket. I couldn't take it.
I'd be done. Nope.
Oh God. No, I mean, so I couldn't watch 2012 because it's too. I'm like, come on.
Oh, it's so unrealistic.
We're like 25, 30 years away from that at this point, but still, I know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And it's happening little by little, but I'll be dead by the time it's on, and I'm not having offspring, so I'm doing my part.
Well, it's just such a ridiculous movie. And here's my thing, like, and I hadn't watched it in a really long time. And like when I came in, it was like towards the middle end. But like I forgot about some things that I'm watching. I'm going, these dumbasses. Like they're the ones that disabled the fucking boat. They got the hydraulic system all fucked up. The back gate can't close. They're gonna kill like 500,000 people, whatever, because like they can't. Like, and now like the dude goes down, swims down into a half flooded boat that he flooded because they like locked open the door and like finally closes the door so they can turn on the engines and not run into Mount Everest, which is the most ridiculous sentence I've ever said. But then it's like they're all cheering him on like he's a hero, and I'm like, he's the bastard that fucking like fucked up the boat in the first place. Like he'd be under arrest. He would not be being cheered as a hero.
So do you find that you're watching, I mean, like there are the major cinematic releases, but you know, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Netflix, they all have these originals. I have a list when people are like, I need something new to watch. And my first thing in the list is like Better Things. Okay. If you don't know who Pamela Adlon is, just go watch Better Things. It will wrench and tear your heart out, but I love that show. And it's funny. She's a comedic actress. And I understand that Louis C.K. was associated with the first 3 months, or first 3 seasons, but that was before we knew he was jerking it in front of his assistants without consent. Right. Silence is not consent. And they were just like, oh, I don't want to lose my job. Right. But it's a beautiful thing. But I find that Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime are coming out with shit that's way better than the major studios.
Well, and I think that's because those studios like Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that, I think when they started making things, since they were competing with the major studios, they gave the creators a little bit more freedom to create what they wanted to, instead of stepping in and saying, oh, we need you to fit in this box or fit in that box.
And they don't have really a rating system that they have to go through, because there's one, I cannot remember what the name of it is, but somebody said you should listen or like at least watch the first episode. 15 minutes in, and I was like, hey honey, you want to come home? It was it was a lot. Yeah.
I will say since I canceled cable and haven't been watching TV, and I will say, like, I used to enjoy a lot of the shows, like Mom, you mentioned earlier. I loved that show, and I probably would have continued watching it. The problem is that it's on a standard channel that I have to turn my tuner on, and I don't have a DVR, so there's no way for me to record it, and I'm not around on normal TV times, and so it's not like I have a traditional schedule where I can go sit down at 8 o'clock and watch a TV show.
You guys need to get that TiVo over the air thing.
Yeah, so it's like, if I had that, I feel like it'd be good, but at this point, it's like I've been so used to watching... Like, I have Netflix and I have Disney Plus, and I just got HBO Max. and he has Hulu. So, and he has Amazon Prime.
All of Doctor Who is on HBO
I know.
Max. I know we talked
All of
about the
Doctor
last
Who.
time, but Jesus.
Yeah. So since we mentioned that on the last time, I literally got HBO Max so that I could watch Justice League and found out all of Doctor Who's on there. So I've been binge watching Doctor Who like crazy.
I mean, you have to watch it chronologically. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you can literally watch one episode and you're fine.
Right.
But if you watch all of it, you will fall in love, get your heart broken, cry.
It's so good.
I cried through most of 11.
I will say so with the Jodie Foster,
Whatever her name is.
Yeah, whatever her name is.
The girl doctor.
when she took over, I enjoy her. Although I want to say the first season she was on, I understood why some people were like they didn't like it, and it had nothing to do with the fact she was a woman. There was no consistency in the episodes. There was no like overarching,
yeah.
There was no overarching like storyline that there was in the other ones,
Right.
But I feel like that kind of started to change a little bit more as you get more into it, and so now I'm in the middle of like the overarching storyline, and now I'm super invested in it.
Yeah. I cried my tears out. Cried my eyes out when Graham and Ryan's mutual person died, and and then it got worse for me in the second season when Ryan started referring to him as his grandpa.
I know. I loved that part. I loved that.
Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, Jodie Whittaker. That's what it was. So yeah, so I really enjoy that. But yeah, so since I've gotten the streaming things, and especially because there's so much on all of them.
I love when people are like, you should watch such and such. And I'm like, I have 955 things to watch before your suggestion.
Well, like last night, so... Was it the same night he watched 2012? I don't know. We were binge watching things. So he also watched on Netflix the movie called The Old Guard, which has Charlize Theron in it. And it's
really?
It's a Netflix original. And I had seen it previously. I love that movie. And he started watching it. He was like, is this okay? And I was like, yeah, I haven't seen this in a while. I'm in for watching it again. It's fantastic.
I don't give a shit. Charlize Theron. She is the only thing that made... I loved, what was it, 1,000 Ways to Die in the West, or whatever the Seth. Here's an inside secret. I think Seth Macfarland is fucking sexy. So sexy, which will tell you where my mind goes. Like Brad Pitt, he's okay, but like I like a brain. I don't give a shit what body it's in.
Yeah.
I like a brain.
Yeah.
And he is very smart.
Yeah.
For all of the writing that's very, I mean, he knows what audience he's appealing to.
Right.
But he's very smart, and I like watching him do all of the voices, and he's hot. And I'm pretty sure he only wrote that movie so that he could kiss Charlize Theron.
I haven't seen that movie, but now I feel like I need to.
I think it's like 1,000 Ways to Die in the
Die in the West. Yeah, I've
because
heard of
at
it.
some point he was like, everything out here is trying to kill us.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's kind of like an Australian thing. Like
That is
literally
true.
everything in Australia is trying to kill you.
Oh, absolutely.
But no, Netflix. There was a movie that we watched that was. So I like to watch Netflix because of the comedy specials, because Comedy Central doesn't really exist anymore to do specials. And I like comedy, and there's been a lack of, we haven't been able to go to comedy shows in the past year. But early last year, I watched Spencer Confidential, which is Mark Wahlberg. Now I'm going to have to look her up because it's not Nikki Glaser. So I wouldn't have watched it then. Eliza Schlesinger. She's the one who does like the Drunk Goblin. Everybody has the Drunk Goblin. She's got like a shit ton of Netflix specials.
Yeah.
And then it has Alan Arkin in it, who I love, and I hate the thought that something might happen to him one day, but he's old. And it has a guy named Winston Duke in it.
Oh, Winston Duke was in Black Panther. And
Was he?
Fabulous.
Fucking hot.
He's M'Baku.
Yeah, so like I am not sexualizing him as a black man.
All right, you may
as
not,
a man,
but he's super hot.
So we watched it, and at some point you would love it. At some point, so there's shit happening, and Liza Schlesinger, goddamn, I'm not going to get her name right. Liza Schlesinger, was like, you and him are running around like Batman and Robin with Alfred here, and Alan Arkin's like, don't call me Alfred. She's amazing. It was a great movie, but I think it was a Netflix movie and it was fantastic. And I love the fact that certain things, like Golden Globes is slowly becoming the online streaming awards.
Yeah.
Because they're making better shit.
Yeah.
And they have less. And when a show leaves network TV and gets picked up by Netflix or Hulu or whomever, it becomes so much better.
Well, look at what happened to Schitt's Creek. I mean, Schitt's Creek was a Canadian television show that, while it was semi-popular when it was on broadcast TV, as soon as it hit Netflix, and now granted, it also hit Netflix right before quarantine and stuff happened too. Right. So a lot more people were staying home and watching a lot more TV.
If you haven't watched it, watch it. Get through the first season.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. And it's like, I feel like shows like that are hidden little gems that like may not have been as popular outside of that, as soon as they hit Netflix or whatever and get a little bit of a following, they explode. Yeah. And it's just massive.
And some of them break your heart. So my dad, before he passed away, there was an my dad looked like a young Clint Eastwood. Mm-hmm. So there are some pictures that people may have seen, like Clint Eastwood, like at a pool table. I forget what the movie was that he was a part of. My dad looked very much like that. My dad also looks like Mark Harmon. And then he has the mannerisms of Sam Elliott in The Ranch. Mm. And I loved that show. And I loved it even more when just the hint of a sexual allegation came out about Danny Masterson.
Yeah.
And they were like, bye.
Yeah.
And then they brought Dax Shepard on, and I was like, that's a much better choice. Can you bring Kristen Bell on too? Because she finds her husband hot, and I have a girl crush.
Yeah. Okay, so did you ever watch The Good Place?
Yes.
Loved The Good Place.
I will say this. We're not going to say anything about the ending, but The Good Place is one of a handful of shows that had the most appropriate and best finale ever.
Oh, I agree.
You'll cry for 2 hours.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Oh,
it was
God.
so fantastic.
It was appropriate.
And I will say, she brings on her husband for one episode cameo kind of thing. And it's just like, mwah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I love it. I love their relationship. This is
great.
Like we're bouncing from topic to topic. I follow them on Instagram, and I love how honest he's been, and he's been brought honest by some things. Mm-hmm. So he's actually been showing it a lot on Instagram now because he was off on a guy's trip for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure the pump that he has, or what you see in his arm, is number 1, antibiotics, and number 2, probably Marcaine, to numb it up for pain. Because if you guys don't know, he used to be he's a recovering addict, but he relapsed about a year ago. And he was like, I'm hiding it from everybody. And then he came clean, and they were like, you were not hiding it from all of us, but you had to come to that realization yourself.
Yeah.
And she stood by him, and their relationship is just...
Yeah. Well, and I felt bad too because his relapse became because so he had issues with drugs and alcohol before, and he cleaned himself up and was doing very well, and then he had an injury.
Yeah, his shoulder injury. So he just had surgery on it, and that's why I think he's got I think it's an antibiotic support, but I also think it's Marcaine.
Yeah, so his relapse happened.
I have done no research.
Well, I know his relapse came because he had taken pills for something that he got injured before.
And he said that she kept them, but he started buying them off the street.
And getting them and taking more than he was supposed to be taking. And so... it's one of those things where it's sad to see where it's like, okay, so he was taking very good care of himself, had totally not totally, but he was recovered and he was, out of the woods there. And then he got a small injury and had to take some pills for it. And then it just made him relapse into that again. So
no, I appreciate that he came clean because a lot of people follow him because he is recovering and he's.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it before. Excuse me, without the belch. Representation is important in all forms.
Right.
And I used to get annoyed with people who are like, why does this person have to come out publicly? Because kids need to know that people they're looking at in the media are also gay, because they may be in a situation that they are told that this is an abomination. It never happens. Guess what? It happens way more frequently than you think.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not a choice. It's genetics. It's a thing. Actually, if you want to blame it on anybody, did you know that if a woman has had twins, one and or one of the twins and or any child born in the same after that, I'm probably doing this wrong, go look it up yourself, but basically one of the twins and or the children after the twins have a higher percentage of being gay, trans.
Really?
That, yeah. And I was like, well, blame mom. No, don't blame anybody. Don't blame anybody. It just is a thing that happens in the fallacy that, this only happens in the human species. Absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
Go check out your 2 male cats who are licking each other's junk and humping each other.
Right.
It doesn't happen. Also, it does happen in like nature.
Yeah.
I think they said there's only 2 species that do not that they've never seen homosexual tendencies in. And if you can't get behind gay penguins raising an egg together,
I mean,
I don't know what's wrong with you. But even when it comes
also,
to,
how the hell do you tell which one's a female and a male?
I don't know. Apparently, you have
So
to
really, why does it matter?
pick it up and look. Do you know what, though? I'm guessing that people who research those things really know, because I can look at the cat and 90% of the time tell you whether it's male or female from the face.
Oh,
Their faces are different.
interesting.
But so I think representation matters in the addiction community.
Yeah.
To
absolutely.
know that somebody is going through the same struggles as you, like talking after 2 beers and 2 shots of whiskey. Speaking of the addiction community, I can go without. I'm sorry. That was a bad joke. I'm not trivializing it. So I think it's important that people see that and know that there's a path to recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm very proud of the fact that he had not just admitted it, but he was like, hey, here's what's been going on with me. I don't like it being called an admission, because he's like, hey, here's what's been going on with me. It happens. Relapses happen. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
You are always at a risk of relapsing if you're not on the ball.
Yeah.
Which breaks my heart, because I can't imagine waking up every day
Right.
and having to worry about whether you're going to make it to the end of the day without. I cannot make it to the end of the day without eating sugar. No matter how many times I do it, I will eat sugar if I have to leave the house and go sneak it. We don't keep any traditionally sugary sweets. Like we have keto sweets, which is kind of fucking gross, because I don't like erythritol or stevia, or I unless it's allulose, I don't want to eat it.
Right.
So I personally can't make it through the day without like having something I should not fucking eat.
Right.
And I know that that's restrictive dieting or whatever, but I should not be eating sugar.
Right.
I can't imagine trying to wake up through the day and tell yourself through the entire day and fight for the entire day that you're not going to go have an opiate or drink or anything.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, but I'm glad that he came forward.
Right.
So that people will know it's a process.
Right.
And we've never experienced it firsthand, I'm assuming. I don't know.
I have not. I mean,
I just looked at Brandy like, we should probably not be drinking together.
No, I have not personally. I have family members that have. So I've seen very limited views of it.
Yeah.
But I've never been there, so.
I used to have a really black and white view of it. And that's changed. I think it changes with age.
It does, because
information.
I feel like the more you go through in your life, the more you understand where maybe some people have a harder time dealing with certain things, and reach out to different avenues to try and cope with it.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't want to say I completely understand where somebody's coming from when they become a complete addict or anything else like that, because I've never been there.
I think the predisposition is already there.
Right. But also, I think
But you also don't know until you take something that triggers it.
Well, and that's the thing. And like, everybody gets asked those questions like, oh, have you ever smoked weed, or have you ever done this, or have you ever done that? And there's certain things that, like, as an adult, when you've gone through certain circles and everything else, and maybe you've had the opportunity to take things and you didn't, or whatever else, where you're like, I might have tried this or tried that, but I didn't try this because the things that I know about it and my personality might have gone too well together. Right. And so I didn't do it because I knew that if I did it once, it might not have gone very well, and I might have kept doing it.
Right. So drinking has always been kind of a trigger with me, not in the way that you would think. So not in a problematic way, but in a situational way. So if I were I have social anxiety.
Yeah.
And what I used to do was drink until I didn't have it, but I drank faster than the anxiety would go away. And then all of the drinks would hit me at one time. And then I was a blackout drunk.
Yeah.
And now I'm better with both. I'm medicated.
Yeah.
You can't drink too much on this medication. So I drink enough for the podcast, and then I probably won't drink again for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So there's that, but there were other things that I experimented with that it wasn't so much that, this is getting very long-winded, but I smoked for a very long time. Cigarettes.
Yeah.
I have no tolerance for weed. So I smoked cigarettes for a very long time. And then I got to a point where I didn't want to. And I didn't want to unless I was drinking. So I would have a pack of cigarettes in my glove box for months.
Yeah. Just
and then
until
I would
you were drinking.
I would pull them out. And it was only if I knew I was going to drink enough to want a cigarette.
Yeah.
And so a pack of cigarettes might last me an entire year.
Yeah.
I have friends who smoke who have quit, and they're like, I can never go back. If I smoked one, I would smoke an entire pack.
Yeah.
For me, the night we were here on the 20th, I came outside and bummed a cigarette from somebody, and it's the last cigarette that I will smoke for very many months.
Yeah.
The same thing has happened with things that I've experimented with. And if my mom is listening to this, don't ask anything. Just don't ask questions. Anything that I've experimented with, I never thought that I would get addicted to it.
Yeah.
But there are some things that I like more than others. So I thought that maybe it might become like a fucking hobby that I just wanted to do all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go down that road. We have a family of a family of alcoholics. We are, on one side of my lineage, there is alcoholism and gambling addiction. And so there's addiction that exists, and it used to worry me, until I figured out that like my drinking was caused by social anxiety. And if you treat the anxiety, then this goes away and that goes away, because I knew through everything else that I had experienced or experimented with, I didn't wake up and want to do it more. I will say that ecstasy was the one thing that ecstasy and heroin, I'm not just going to throw that out there. Heroin, meth, any of that shit I didn't want to do. If you're making it in your trailer, I don't want to have it.
No.
But ecstasy, I saw an MTV show about it one time where this girl took ecstasy constantly, and they were like, we did a brain scan and she has the brain of an 83-year-old dementia patient.
Oh God.
I never wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I've never done it once. I will never do it at all. That stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Dare didn't get shit from me, but that worried me. But anything else kind of happens to me like cigarettes. Like I can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
It's fun to do, but it's not part of my fun.
I will say, I feel like that's part of like having an addictive personality. And I've never been, so I used to smoke cigarettes.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, for a little bit. But it was very much so a stress reliever kind of a thing. And I mean, it only lasted for about 3 years. And then I quit. And then, I dated somebody who abhorred it, and I didn't smoke. And then we broke up, and then I smoked again. And then I did somebody else, and I was like, well, I should probably stop smoking again. But it was never anything that was difficult for me to stop. You know what I mean?
So, hey, soul sister, what's up?
So I was like, I was smoking, but it was a...
it's a habit.
It's a habit thing, and it was a food suppressor, and it was a like stress reliever.
It goes well with alcohol.
It goes well with alcohol.
Do you know how many friends I have that only smoke when they drink, and they're like, can I bum a cigarette? And I'm like, nah, I just bummed one from...
Yeah. If you're going to bum things, and I think that's how it started. It was like, I'll bum this, and then it was like, well, I should probably buy my own. And so then I did, and then it was like, oh, well, this is expensive. And then I stopped, and I was like, all right. And now that I've stopped, and it's been, God, probably 6 years, 5 years, 6 years since I've had one. And within the past 5 to 6 years, I probably maybe had one cigarette. And the problem is that since I stopped, when you go for so long without having one, and then you do have one, you wake up the next day and you're like, ugh,
and you're coughing, you're like,
it's so disgusting. It's so nasty. You're like, why did I do that? But like when I stopped, I literally was like, okay, I'm going to quit now. and I just did.
That's how I am.
Which-
I'm like, I just didn't buy anymore.
Yeah, and I feel really bad for some people because some people have a very hard time quitting. Like, my dad's been a smoker for years. And, like, to have him quit, like, he quit for a while, but then he started smoking cigars
You need
again.
to get him on a vape.
Yeah, and then he stopped smoking cigars and went back to cigarettes because, you know, when you smoke a cigar, you're not supposed to inhale the cigar.
Yeah.
Because it's worse
But
for
it's
you.
still
if you do.
oral cancer.
It is still oral cancer. But the difference between a cigarette and a cigar is when you're smoking a cigarette, you're inhaling and it's more lung-based, right? And then a cigar, you're supposed to puff it.
You're
but
supposed to get the mouth feel.
Right, but you're not supposed to inhale it. The problem
Right.
is my dad was so used to smoking cigarettes that, like, when he smoked a cigar, he'd inhale it, which the tobacco in cigars is much worse for your lungs than cigarettes.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so if you're going to just inhale all the cigars you're smoking, then it's better for you to have the cigarettes. So he went back to that, and it's like, okay, well, that's still not great.
We can get him on a vape program
Yeah.
that takes him down.
Yeah. So it's like, all right. So now he's back down to cigarettes, and it's like, all right, well, I guess that's better than inhaling the cigars, but still not great. But yeah, he has a horrible time quitting, like horrible time.
Yeah, and I sympathize with it.
Yeah.
I can't, I sympathize with them. I'm not sure which is right, empathize or sympathize. Like, I can't put myself there, but I
No.
understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But I'm not that person.
No, I
and
don't.
I annoy those people that are that person.
Because I can't. It's not like I feel like it's one of those things where it's like when you're done with something, you're just done with
Right.
it, and you're like, okay, I'm done, and moving on.
Yeah. And there are legitimately things that I will become obsessed with, but smoking wasn't one of them.
Yeah.
Anything I experimented with wasn't one of them. It was nice.
Yeah.
It was, I would encourage my mother to stop listening at this point. Just fast forward like 2 minutes. So there was a substance that makes you very happy
Yeah.
and going, and I liked it.
Yeah.
And there was not even a weekend. It was a night where a friend of mine and I had a lot of it.
Uh-huh.
And then we had to have some delivered to us by a friend who had it.
Yeah.
And at least we didn't have to pay a premium price. So there was a night that 140 pounds and 120 pounds of us went through a lot of it. Let's just say, like, we're talking in the 3s to the 5s.
Yeah.
And hopefully people are getting where I'm going with this because I don't want to incriminate myself. And then I apparently, when I was talking to my friend who's a DJ, I was talking like this, and he was like, you need to not do that because I know what you've done. And I'm like, did somebody tell you? And he's like, no. Nobody told me shit. You're talking a million miles a minute, and you think that you're talking slowly. And I was like, but I think I am talking slowly. So he took me in a back stairwell, and he let me smoke weed, which, in all honesty, I'd only smoked weed like once before then.
Yeah.
And it helped bring me down. But then years later, when I was like, oh, I can smoke weed. No, I can't.
No.
Can't I proved it to myself then. The night that I met my fiance, I proved it to myself then. Of course, I had a liter of wine before I did it, but I've had something since then, and I was like, it's not the wine. I immediately fall asleep.
Oh, I do too.
Like, and my friends are like, you need to like have I'll just say this
I'm
because
sorry,
it's
no.
such a, they were like, you should do sativa instead of indica. And I was like, I don't even know what the fuck I did, but everybody else was awake. So I'm assuming that it was sativa because they all went on about their night like they owned it. And I melted into the floor as I walked in from the patio. And yet he still dated me.
Right.
He was like, that's hot. I have to have one of those. He did not. He absolutely did not. But that's where I am with it, is that like some things were nice, but I didn't need them anymore. And like you said about things that you know about, like I don't judge anybody who has smoked crack, but I knew that I didn't want to instantly die.
Right. I don't. And
I don't know what the statistics are in instantly having a heart attack, but I'm fat and I have a history of heart disease in my family.
Yeah.
I didn't want to die.
And that's the thing. I'm like, when it comes to drugs and things like that, like I've had friends that have tried different things, and like I presented with different opportunities to try different things. But I've mostly turned them down to the point where I have learned there are some things I cannot do because they immediately make me either vomit or pass out. Or there are some things that I'm like, I feel like I want to do that, but I probably shouldn't because I'm already hyperactive enough and there's probably no reason for me to do that. And I would like it too much. And then I don't want to even go down that road.
Yeah, no. So I'm happy with that. But the whole point is I think people who do have that issue they don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that anybody should out them. But if they're comfortable with sharing it, they help other people.
Right.
Who don't know that they're going through that.
And that's the thing. And with Dax Shepard, I feel like one of the things that was very, like people constantly call out celebrities for sharing their thoughts on things and whatever else when they're like, you just shut up and act. And
they're
it's like,
fucking people.
They're people too. And it's like, but the minute they screw up or do anything, everybody is like, oh, you're a horrible human being. And it's like, you're supposed to be a role model. And it's like, okay, well, either they're a role model or they're not.
Right.
And they can either have an opinion or they can't. And it's like, I really respect the fact that he came out and was like, I have these issues. And he has shared them with the world and said, I've had these things. I cleaned myself up, whatever. And you know what? When he had a relapse, he came out and said, you know what? I had this relapse. It happened. I sought help. People, I needed to reach out to people and they helped me and I'm getting through it. And this is, the process I'm going through. And I feel like for some people that are going through this thing, it's like, you may not feel like there are people there that will help you or whatever else, but like you get down in the trenches, I feel like if you reach out, there's enough people around you that will probably say, hey, we'll help, but you also need to be willing to help yourself too.
Right.
Like you have to be there and willing to say there's a problem, because if you're not willing to say there's a problem, then there's nobody around you that will ever be able to give you any help.
And you really need to, from an outside perspective, I think that how many lives would have been saved if somebody would have just been like, no.
Yeah.
No. I see it happening. I see what you're doing. I know what you're doing. No. Even if you're the only voice that says no, if you say it no consistently enough,
yeah,
then somebody may hear you.
Yeah.
And you might get, everybody wants to shoot the messenger, and you might get some backlash for it, but if you know it, then just say it. Don't enable people for anything.
Yeah.
Like, they're destructive behaviors. However, we just built a Cameo 4, so
my Cricket's literally in my trunk right now.
He's at home trying to figure out how to make stickers because he wants to make us magnets. Aww. By the way, if anybody else is a graphic artist, we need somebody to rework our logo. Not that we don't love it, but we need an SVG of it. And I was unable to get that.
Yeah.
No matter how much I asked for it.
I do some graphics.
I feel like somebody told me they were doing it and then they didn't actually do it. But they were like, oh, no, I emailed it to you. I don't know what happened. And then I just never fucking got it.
I mean, I have some graphics background, but like, I don't. It's hard.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not an image that you can break apart either. And I will give this to the artist. Number one, it's my. If you want to do it, it's my artwork. I paid for it. I own it. It doesn't matter who did it. And if you are afraid of that, then I will give you the samples that I gave them. You can just make your own shit.
Yeah.
Shit, great with the hands.
Yeah, the hands are good.
Yeah, hands are normally really weird.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go to my tattoo artist and see if she wants to do it.
Oh, there you go.
Just for pay. She's going to cost me a lot more.
I mean, tattoos are fun. Tattoo artists are usually very good at artwork. Although computer work's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I just can't wait until, and my tattoo artist works off of an Apple, so I'm really worried about getting an SVG from that.
Well, an SVG should be an SVG regardless of which computer you work on.
Right. And the reason that we're having an issue is that we can't take bitches. We can't take drunk and or bitches out of it. So I would be fine with like being able to replace the word bitches with ladies. And I think that was your point when you asked for a vector image, is that we could do that and plus size it appropriately and or switch out the background. Because we cannot promote our shit worth anything. And then I tried to pin a post to our page and it will not let me pin the post. And I have a feeling it's because a URL, because the picture says bitches and because the URL eventually takes you to something that says bitches and or drunk. I'm not sure which it is, but I get a notice that's like profanity and...
I mean, the URL I've changed so the primary is DBBL.
Oh, by the way, if you are trying to go to drunkbitchesbelike.com, No, which one did we disable?
No, drunkbitchesbelike.com still works, but the problem is so when you type that in,
DBBL.com.
it redirects you to dbblpodcast.com.
Yeah, dbbl.com does not work anymore.
I don't think
Even if we had it. I'm not sure. I tried to go to it today. But also...
I will check on that and see if it's available.
No, we don't need to. We're just going to stick with DBBL podcast and Drunk Bitches Be Like podcast. And then...
I mean...
we don't need more URLs.
Well, I mean, if we get rid of like 10 of them that we have...
You literally bought everything that we might ever use.
But now that we're a year in, I feel like I know a better,
Okay, wait. We're just so everybody knows, we're a year in on like deciding to do this. We are 4 months in on having done it. And so Brandy drunkenly bought every fucking URL she could get last April.
There was like deals on .onlines and
we got every .com, .net, whatever. We didn't get any
There's
.govs.
.orgs, there's .onlines, there's .me's, there's
So we're gonna stick with some .com shit, and we're going the path of least resistance by doing it. I honestly love doing this, and I've said before I don't care if anybody listens, but I appreciate the people that listen. But I just like having a conversation with you and drinking. Those are the two things that make the podcast happen.
I agree.
So, so I'm going to preface this by saying, do not reach out to this artist because he doesn't deserve to be bombarded with your shitty requests or my shitty request. He didn't deserve my request. So in planning our wedding,
oh, I love this so much.
We reached out to, so my partner and I bonded on a couple of different things. Number one, musically, we are completely different. I like anything you can dance to. I don't like slow music. I get sleepy and actually I get irritated when I hear slow music. So like slow anything, don't like it. Switch the channel. He likes heavy metal, like not just heavy metal, like heavy metal, that movie. He likes hard metal.
Yeah.
He likes screamo metal. I do not.
Yeah.
I mean, I will go to a show with him and I will sit there and drink, but I'm like, I will not participate in any of this. And I'm going to go sit outside when they start this because that's busting my eardrums. I can't understand what they're saying. I feel like it's my age. I'm like, I don't get it. But what we have bonded over are a few things. The Beastie Boys, which I started crying at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because I realized there were never going to be another Beastie Boys. I knew that when he died, but I came to the realization at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that he was dead and we were never, ever getting another Beastie Boys album. And they evolved to a much better place. Although I, as guilty as it makes me feel, I'm still like, girls in the morning, girls to make your bed. I love that fucking song. I love the entire License to Ill album. I should not. Don't give people Brass Monkey. But I love the entire thing. So I was very upset that I was very upset when Mike D died.
Oh,
I love that stupid band. So we bonded on Beastie Boys. It was a genre we could like come across. Yeah. And there's a couple of other things that we've crossed on, but we bonded more on a comedy level. So our first date was a Jimmy Pardo show at a place called Wiley's Comedy Store. Comedy. It's not Comedy Joint, but
Comedy Club.
Comedy Club. Yeah. It used to be called Wiley's Comedy Club. Now it's Wiley's Comedy Joint, and I disagree with that and fight me. So we went and saw Jimmy Pardo, and then we've seen various other artists together, comedians. I love comedy. I'm a comedy nerd. Yeah. We touched on this in episode 6. I don't do bro comedy, but I know about bro comedy. I like the thinkers.
Yeah.
And I also like the people who aren't just comedians, like Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert. Actually, I think they started out. Stephen Colbert, I'm pretty sure, did stand up. I like the thinkers. I'm good with that. Like Jack Whitehall cracks me up, but Dimitri Martin cracks me up even harder because he just leaves a lot open for you to determine on your own. Stephen Wright died laughing. He's deadpan. He's not doing much shit anymore, but love that shit. So we connected over an artist. I introduced him to an artist named Stephen Lynch, not actually physically introduced him. We've never met the man in our entire lives, which will play into the rest of the story. But I was like, here, listen to this album. And so he listened to an album called Lion, and we had a great time. We laughed. And then he started going off on his own. He was like, have you ever heard of these songs? And I was like, well, actually I have, but I just wanted to start you off here, and then we could work our way backwards. So he loves Little Tiny Mustache, which I find funny as shit. His family would not. I think you're a Nazi, baby. And that's funny because my fiance is Jewish. Not just like Jewish, but like Jewish. So he thought that was funny, like in a dark, like in a dark sense.
Oh, yeah.
He thought it was funny. And then I was like, all right, great. So I saw Stephen Lynch on his Lion tour. I went to Columbus, saw it at the... I can't remember what the name of the Capitol Theater. Mm-hmm. In which case that the stage is like a foot off the floor. I didn't realize when I bought a first row ticket that I would be like, I don't know, 72 inches away from him. It was really weird.
Oh yeah.
But you're like eye level with them. There was a girl next to me making drinks in her purse because she didn't want to buy the drinks, but she was trashed and her two friends were not maintaining her. And at some point she threw an arm out as she kept wooing, which comedians do not. Here's the thing. Rules of comedy. Laugh. At least chuckle. Don't groan. Don't sit silently. They need feedback. And don't woo. Don't woo every fucking 5 minutes. Don't woo while they're in the middle of shit. Don't woo while they're talking. Don't woo. She kept wooing.
No, God.
Bob and Tom, literally, girls that go woo, was happening beside me. And he thought it was me. And he addressed me directly. And I was like, and not just me, but like people behind me and beside me were like, it's not her, it's that girl. And I was like, yeah, that girl. Not me. I'm sitting here quietly enjoying myself and lip syncing to your music because nobody wants to hear me sing, as you all are about to experience before this statement. So I loved it. So I decided, like, I told my partner, we have to go see Stephen Lynch when he comes anywhere near us. He's not coming to Dayton, Ohio, so we should see him wherever he comes.
Yeah.
So he came to Bogart's. Bogart's is a huge center now for comedians and music and all this. I've seen Henry Rollins there on a spoken word tour.
I actually saw Stephen Lynch down at Bogart's.
Did you really? Were you at the same concert as me?
Did Mitch Hedberg open?
No, that was a long time. No, Mitch Hedberg was dead before I went there.
Oh, yeah. So when I was in college, I went down to Bogart's in Cincinnati and saw Mitch Hedberg. He opened and Stephen Lynch played after him.
So
it was fantastic.
Know this. I find Mitch Hedberg attractive despite his his addiction ended him. So, and actually, I think it killed his girlfriend, too. I think she died recently.
Oh.
So, maybe not. Don't quote me on that. Go look it up yourself. I'm just making shit up as I go along. I love Mitch Hedberg, though.
Yeah. I did not appreciate him as much before I went and saw him live. But after I saw him live,
his whole thing about like escalators cannot be broken. They can only be stairs.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry for the convenience.
Yeah.
So Stephen Lynch, if you don't know who he is, he has the most beautiful voice. He writes beautiful music. He just happens to have words to go with the music that you're like, oh shit, I should not be laughing at this. And I love every minute of it. My partner and I bonded over it. And we went to Bogart's and we saw him, and he did some of his like songs from the previous album, but he was working a new routine. So he did a lot of songs that are on his most current album, This Old Heart. Yeah, I think it's This Old Heart. Look it up. And we enjoyed all of that. He actually found it way more funny than he did just listening to an album. And then we watched Hello Kalamazoo, because Stephen Lynch has a certain... You have to see him. Like, it's not just a song. You have to see him, because I realize that every reaction that happens and like everything they do is choreographed, but it's choreographed so well that you're like, oh shit, they just looked at each other and we're like, what? So he started on Lion. He had started working with an artist named Courtney J, who was a legitimate artist in her own right.
Yeah.
And for some reason, she signed up with this deviant This is a very long way to get to this story. But anyway, she signed up with this guy who's a deviant. They have beautiful voices together. He writes beautiful music. We went and saw the show, This Old Heart. And then we saw Hello Kalamazoo. He'd already heard the album, but seeing it connected more with him. And not being vegetarians or vegans, we found the song No Meat to be hilarious. There's something about like... I'd blow a goat for some bacon right now. We love bacon. It's a whole thing. And so I told him, if we ever get married, this should be our song. But for the words, because we know his family is going to be here. So if his mom and dad and his aunt and uncle couldn't come, we would definitely be dancing to the lyrical version of No Meat. I reached out to, I shot my shot. I went on Twitter and was like, hey, do you have an instrumental version of No Meat? And he wrote back and said, I'm not sure. I'm getting married April 17th. Do you have an instrumental version of No Meat? And he wrote back and said, I'm not sure that No Meat should be the theme of your wedding or your wedding night. And I was like, it's not going to be. I think we might have barbecue. I promise I'm going to get laid. But do you have the instrumental version? And he wrote back and said, I will do what I can do. Let me see what I can do. And then like a bunch of other people. So if he shows up at the wedding, I'm going to be super excited. He's not, but just in case. Because one of his friends who also plays with him was like, hey, let's go to a live show. And I was like, oh, that's not going to happen. I'll buy you a hotel room. We have no fucking good hotel rooms, but it's Dayton, Ohio. I have nothing good. There's nothing good near here. And it's like 5 miles away. So he wrote back a little later and said, I'm still working on it. I'll let you know. And then he wrote back a little while later and said, here's the deal. I'm working with an engineer, and because it was recorded live, the guitar track, and because he plays the guitar and he sings, they're all on the same track. And he was like, we can't get rid of if we get rid of the voice, we get rid of the guitar, not Qatar. It's a different thing.
And then it's not.
And then it's not what it should be. And it's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
It actually is a beautiful waltz if you don't listen to the words. So eventually he came back and he was like, we can't do it. And I'm so sorry. And I was like, that's okay. You're a part of this like marriage story, wedding story for the rest of, our lives. He was very nice. He doesn't know me from anybody. I just tweeted him. He spent 5 months trying to do it. And I was like, I love you. He's got a wife and kids. He doesn't love me back.
It's okay though. I mean, he tried to help, so that's nice.
I just what kind of a nice human? He's the nicest human being ever. I could have like shot that shit out to Bo Burnham, and he would have been like, "Man, fuck you."
Yeah,
he probably wouldn't have been because he's a very nice person.
I mean, no, but still.
So we had to choose a different song. And we've worked it out. It's fine. But at some point during the reception, there will be a slow music break, and we will be dancing to No Meat because I refuse to leave that night without dancing to No Meat.
I love it.
So Hello Kalamazoo can be found on Amazon Prime. And if you like it, tweet Stephen Lynch and tell him that Mindy in Progress told you about it. He doesn't know about the podcast, but if he did and he wanted to come on,
I wouldn't argue about that.
I would fangirl. I would cry.
I mean, honestly, he was one of my first college concert experiences that he's fantastic.
He's oddly hot.
Yeah. Oh no, he's super hot.
And then he played Robbie in the Broadway version of The Wedding Singer, and I think he got a Tony nomination for it.
That's awesome.
So I forget what Robbie's name is, but Alan, he plays the Adam Sandler character.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
I love him.
All right. So speaking of,
are you gonna oddly segue?
I'm gonna oddly segue because Stephen Lynch reminds me of this thing online that I learned of in college. That have you ever heard of Joe Cartoon?
No.
Okay.
Is it like Joe Boxer but a cartoon?
All right. So
Brandy has no idea what Joe Boxer is, but for all you Kmart fans,
I mean, it's the underwear, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
All right. So here's the thing. So when I was in college, Joe Cartoon was a thing, and it makes me now looking back, I'm like, oh god, we were all sadistic fucks.
Sadistic.
Yeah. Sorry,
not statistic.
I put my aligners back in, and I can't say that word.
She means sadistic, not statistic. Statistically, they were all sadistic jerks.
Yes, that is exactly the quote that needed to be there. So Joe Cartoon was this website that you could go to. And one of the few things I remember was that there was like a hamster in a microwave.
That's not funny in the Dayton, Ohio area.
I mean, it's not, but also like it had buttons on it. So like you could go on and
Like
virtually...
well done, medium well.
No, like there's like one and you'd hit it and like it would turn the microwave on and the hamster in the microwave would
it was
talk
like
to
an
you.
animated thing.
It was an animated thing.
So it was like, no, don't do that.
He was like, oh no. And then you'd hit 2 and he'd be like, oh, fuck, son of a bitch. And like 3. And as you would go through the numbers and like heat him up more, like he'd get to the point where he'd be like, you goddamn son of a bitch. This is like, and he would yell at you. Like, to the point. And
Did he
like,
do a frog in the blender?
and yes, there was a fucking frog in a blender, and the frog would yell at you as you got higher and higher on the blender. And I'm like, I don't know why this was a thing, but like, I feel like this is why we're all sadistic fucks now, is because like we grew up with these things on the internet where it's like, oh, I can press it higher and higher, and these animated animals will yell at me as I like either cook them or blend them to the point that they're like, oh no.
Look, that goes all the way back to people have been doing that for a long time. I remember watching Saturday Night Live with Mr. Bill.
Oh yeah,
He was the clay figure that used to get ran over or smashed. Oh no! And I found it darkly hysterical. So,
oh no, it's hysterical.
It's
but
hysterical.
At the same time, when I look back at it now, I'm like, I feel like there was probably something wrong with all of us.
maybe
So I was at a thing the other day.
it was a thing.
It was a thing.
It's a thing.
And there are some people that I know. And of the people that I know, there's this one person who is definitely not a talker.
Yeah.
And also very awkward socially, as far as like they walked over to me in a crowded room of people and just stood there. And like when I looked over, I noticed them and I was like, oh, hey, how are you? And they answered the question, but then had no follow-up. And so then I'm like, now I feel the need to like come up with more questions or things. And so then I asked,
Open-ended.
Yeah. So I started asking about things. And they would answer questions, but then they'd finish the question and just shut their mouth and stare at me. And I'm like, okay. Okay, I gotta go. And so, like, once I ran out of questions, I'm like, what do you do in this situation? Like, this is a lovely human being, but also if they're not going to continue the conversation in any way whatsoever, like, I don't know how to, like, still participate. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got a thing. I gotta, like, peace out now. Thanks. Love you. Bye.
Nice.
Although I'm pretty sure I didn't say I love you, because that would have been
I
weird.
hope not.
But yeah.
Have you ever ended a conversation on the phone and wondered if you said I love you? You're like, I'm not sure. I heard it in my head.
Right.
But I'm not sure it came out of my face.
yeah.
And I didn't mean I love you. I just meant goodbye.
Oh, yes. And speaking of phone conversations, so I don't talk a lot about work, which I'm not going to talk a lot about work, but I will talk about this just because it is a
The
peripheral-
circumstance of work.
The circumstance of work. All right, y'all are going to have to deal with this for the next couple of months because I'm going to get real sloppy with some of my words.
So I just have to tell you guys that we are thinking about a format where we talk for 3 or 4 hours, then we just break it up into 2, which means that we will be much drunker for one episode than we are for the one
well,
before.
I feel like I can piece them apart and like split that shit up. But
There you go.
Maybe
That's just
we'll
more
see.
work for
I
you.
don't know. We'll see how that goes. But so I start my work day anywhere between 8 and 9 a.m. Like, I have somewhat flexible hours where, 9 to 5 is your typical 8-hour workday. And then I start anywhere between 8 and 9 and finish anywhere between 5 and 7, depending on a lunch break that I did or did not take, or
I feel
if I
like-
had an appointment or whatever else.
I'm on vacation and I plan on working tomorrow because I forgot to turn in shit on Friday.
Right.
Like my time card.
Well, and that's the thing. So, like, there are certain days where I'm like, and I go once a week to the allergist to get shots and things. So there's always at least one day a week where I have to take, So I take an hour off. That's not a lunch hour. That's,
But are you salaried?
yes.
Yeah, you have a much different dedication to your work when you're salaried.
Right. So I'm like, but I put in the hours that I need to put in. But so I had somebody schedule a work call with me. at 7:45 a.m.
That's bullshit.
And that was what I thought. And I immediately... Okay, so here's the situation. I took Friday and Monday off work, right? He scheduled this call during Friday when I was off work for Tuesday morning at 7:45. So, like, if I'm off work on Friday and Monday, which means technically I should be off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So I have a 4-day weekend that I'm off. And I put in the out of away message and everything else that I'm not going to be there. And he schedules a call for 7:45 on a Tuesday morning. Like, am I obligated to take that? Because I feel like that's technically the first time I should be at work is like 8:30 Tuesday morning.
Well, also, you shouldn't have been logging in to see the meeting in the first place on Monday. So
Right.
if you show up at 8 o'clock, you just didn't see it.
Right.
Unless they put read receipts on that shit, and that's sketchy. Don't do that.
I don't know. So, like I told my boss on Monday specifically, like on the Friday I took off definitely. Monday I took off part of the day and I said I'll be in and out Monday because I have a bunch of different doctor's appointments and things like that. So I will be working, but it will be very intermittent and blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to make sure that there was no confusion on when I would be in the office. So I just put an out of office thing on Monday. So clearly I'm going to be in the office on Monday, but on Monday, there's a part of me that just wants to reschedule that because I'm like, who wants to do a phone call at 7:45 in the morning, especially when I'm working from home half the time and me even working. Like if I start work at 8:15, I'm sorry, I'm waking up at 8 a.m., rolling out of my bed, walking into my office,
Yeah.
logging on and starting work.
I would just wait until like Sunday night or Monday night and then propose a new
reschedule it.
time and be like, not going to work. Decline. Here's a new time. Not tentative. That means that you might be agreeable to it. Just decline.
Yeah. Because I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, I'm sorry. I understand that you may be a busy human being and you have other office hours you'd like to keep.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question in between this? Are you about to start having the hiccups?
No, I'm good.
Oh, you looked like you were suppressing a hiccup.
I'm out of breath.
Okay. Take a deep breath and continue.
Yeah.
We walked upstairs to get here.
We did. And I'm out of breath because I'm chubby.
You's not fat. You's fluffy.
I'm fluffy, bitches. I can't even say fluffy correctly with these son of bitches on. But yeah, so I was like 7:45. Like, who in their right mind schedules something with people at 7:45? Like, that is not a, like, if you want to work earlier than 8 a.m., then you do you. But
Right.
don't make other people work before 8 a.m.
Right. So
Like-
my office core work hours are like 8 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever. I'm sorry. I took the shorter of both of those, and I'm like 9 to 5. I'll skip lunch.
Right. That's what I usually do. And
Good.
Yeah, I work through lunch.
But we work offshore. So a lot of times they're like, we're having a call at 6:30. And I feel like I can't complain because there's an entire other team that are 9.5 hours ahead of us.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, so I realize this is like late in the day for you, but it's
Right.
6:30 in the morning for me. Can we move it to 8? And they're like, no, because then we're at work at like 8, 9:30.
Right.
And I'm like, oh.
So they're already staying late, so you have to get up earlier.
I feel bad. Also, I have West Coast coworkers.
Yeah.
And I go to scheduled meetings. And I was like, shit. At least I consider them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I want to do this at 8, but we should do it 3 hours later because. So they should consider it.
I mean, here's the thing, though. He's also in the same time zone as me, so...
Oh, that's just bullshit then.
Yeah.
No, our core hours at work are 8 to 5. You schedule a meeting between those times.
Yeah.
Is it like one of those dreaded 15-minute meetings where you're like, you could have scheduled this for any time?
Oh, not only that, it's a 15-minute phone call that he already sent me 3 emails about, so I already know what the phone call's about. Like, I can literally verbatim...
Can we have another phone call?
I can literally verbatim tell you what the phone call will be, exactly what he's going to tell me, and then what I will respond, because my response to everything will be like, yep, saw the email. Yep, saw the email. Yep, saw the email. And that's what my response will be. So there's almost a part of me that's like, well, fuck it. We can do the 7:45 because I'm going to lay in bed, answer the phone, and be like, yeah, saw the email. Saw the email.
Now, why don't you write those notes down and send them to me?
Well, that's the thing. He already did. He already sent me all the emails with all of the
So
information.
he's that person who like pings you on IM, like, I just sent you an email.
Yeah. Well, and
Or
that
calls you and is like, I just sent you an email. Have you read it yet?
that doesn't even bother me as much, but he's the person that called me twice on Friday when I had an out of message thing on my thing.
Out of office message?
I had an
out of message.
I had an out of office message on my Teams. He called me twice on Teams, which clearly would have said my out of office message. And then after he called me twice and I didn't answer, then he sent me 3 emails plus a meeting thing to give me a call on Tuesday morning about the emails.
And you're like, I'm out of the office.
And I got it and I was just like, what? Why? Like, I understand that this is something that is important to you and I'm helping you with it, but like, and the thing is, if it was something that was like super involved, whatever, fine. It's literally the most asinine, simplest chore. And when I say chore, I mean absolute chore that I could possibly do. Like, I do not need a degree. I do not need a brain to do anything that I have to do for any of this. I have to
you have a degree.
Right. I have to show up at a place at a certain time and sit there.
I'm just amazed at all the things that you have learned, because you're like, these things weren't part of my education, but I picked them up on the way. Mm-hmm. Whereas I am like, these things were not part of my education and I've never seen them in my entire life. We've talked about before that Brandy is the brains behind the operation, because all I do for the entire thing is sit down in front of a microphone and then demand a release date. That's it. That's all I do. I think sometimes I pay for things,
That's
but
not true. You pay for things, and also you do all the social media stuff, because I don't want to do that.
I don't do the social media stuff as well as I should. Like, I need to learn how to schedule posts on like all 3 platforms, because I find, oh my God, it's like having 3 boyfriends. You just neglect somebody.
And this is why I don't want to do it.
It's so difficult. And we don't get a ton of interactions, so like I'm not motivated to do it. Mm-hmm. And we can't boost our posts because we can't use
name.
our art.
Yeah.
So, which goes back to the fact of if anybody wants to do our artwork or redo our artwork, I would appreciate it, as long as you can give me an SVG file. I will promote you at least once.
Yep.
We might even put we need to change some things on the website to promote some certain people that have helped us.
Yeah.
I will do whatever you want for a reasonable price. Wait, I will do professionally things for a reasonable price, but I'm tired of not being able to promote shit on social media.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at least Twitter doesn't give a fuck.
Right.
I mean, they're like, well, you didn't kill anybody, and you're not like bringing people to. You're not like there's a chip in the vaccine. You shouldn't get it by the people who are legitimately carrying around Fitbits.
Yeah.
And other stuff that track that. You're carrying a smartphone. Google knows everywhere you went. We don't need a chip in your ass.
I have a Google phone, so Google has everything on me.
Do you know the first thing that I found weird about like the whole smartphone thing? Mm-hmm. Not the first thing, but for a long time I didn't have a smartphone. Back in the day when they first came available, I still had my like BlackBerry.
Yeah.
My BlackBerry phone. I think it was a BlackBerry phone. Anyway, it had like raised buttons on it, which I really fucking miss. I miss like a physical
button
touchy keyboard.
Push.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But I've also gotten really good at like typing without looking at my keyboard, which frightens the shit out of me because there's no home row. But when they first came out, you didn't do much with them. And then I got really into having the smartphone and doing the things, and I love doing the things. But then my partner and I were at Costco one day summer before COVID. We were in Costco, and I walked up to a hutch that I really liked. It was an apothecary style hutch, except it doesn't have little tiny drawers. It just looks like it does. But when you pull out one, it's like 6. Anyway, so I walked up to it in Costco and was like, "Hi, honey, I really like this. Like, this is cute. Like, I think I might come back and get this at some point. Not now, but I think like in a couple of weeks I'll come back and get it." And then we left. And then I was sitting on the couch browsing shit, and that exact fucking cabinet showed up in my ads. And I was like, I didn't like it online. I didn't even know it existed online. Why the fuck are you following me? But those are the same people who are like, the vaccine has a chip in it. And I don't give a shit if it does. I got my first one. You got your second one.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between the first and the second for you? This is like asking, what was the difference between your first time and your second time?
Okay. So the first time the first shot I got, so I got both my shots on a Thursday. So the first shot I got Friday morning when I woke up.
Not both on the same Thursday.
No, not on the same Thursday. 3 weeks apart. So the first shot I got when I woke up Friday morning, I was fine on Thursday, by the way. Friday I woke up and I had a fever at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
And you've actually had COVID.
And I actually had COVID. And I will say
so much for your fucking antibodies.
I know, right? Well, and so I heard that because when you get the shot, like your body recognizes it and starts to fight back. And so that's why you have some of the side effects. Which doesn't make sense to me, but whatever.
Because your body's already fought this war.
But
you're just introducing friendly troops to remind everybody.
They're like, hey guys, remember us? And my body's like, fuck you. We didn't like you the first time and we're going to push you out the second time. But so I had a fever when I woke up at like 8 a.m. And I had a fever pretty much all day long and fatigue. And so like I spent probably the entire day with a fever on and off, going to bed, waking up, you know, my fever breaks, you're in a sweat, and then, you know, you're fine for an hour. And then I felt okay around 6 o'clock. I was like, ooh, I'm almost done. And then I laid down on the couch, I want to say about 8 o'clock. And I was just watching a movie. And I was like, I'm just going to lay on the couch and watch movies because fuck that. It's Friday night. And then 11 o'clock, I had a fever again. So I went back to bed. And I was like, all right, well, screw this. And I want to say my fever got up to 101.3.
Ooh.
101.5.
The Friday after my shot. But it was mostly just fever and fatigue. And I was like, all right. So I got my second shot. And then at 2 a.m. in the morning on Friday morning, I woke up with a fever. I didn't take my temperature because I recognized what it was. You're like, I feel like shit and I'm hot.
Yeah. And the thing is in my bedroom, I have like a ceiling fan, but we also have a fan, like an oscillating fan at the end of the bed.
Us too.
Yeah, there's so many fans, and they both have remotes, right? And I have these fabulous blankets.
You're like on, off, on.
Oh, yeah. It was terrible because I have this like big blanket thing that's like kind of thinner, but it's nice woven that I use as like a blanket.
Oh, like a hotel cotton blanket?
It's a little bit thinner. It's
you know what I mean? Like,
but it's woven. Yeah. So I have that as like my main blanket that I use, but then I have these really fuzzy blankets that I got from like Sam's Club over the holidays that were like $25, and they're the best blankets ever because they're like super like Sherpa whatever. Like,
we had to let go of the Sherpa. We've just gone to Minky because we've got too many dogs.
Yeah. So I have two of those sitting there, right? And I'm like, one was folded at the end of the bed, and one's like on the bed that I use like on and off depending on how cold I am or whatever. So when I woke up, I was freezing.
Okay, you're not supposed to
put a bunch of blankets on? Mm-hmm. Right, because I have a fever.
Starve a fever.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. But also I was freezing and I was like, fuck everything. Because I had two fans on, a very light blanket, and I was freezing my ass off. But I was also so cold and shivering that like it hurt and I didn't want to get out of bed.
Aww.
But then I was also like, the remotes are on the other side of the bed. And there's a king size bed, right? And so they're on my partner's side, like on his shelf. And so I'm like, in order to get over there, I either need to like roll over the entire bed to get to his side. Because I sleep on like the edge of the bed.
Me too.
Yeah.
We have a queen, so.
Well, so it
and
was
a
like,
dog in between us.
Either get out of the bed, walk around the bed and get those things, or like just freeze your ass off. And I have like a water bottle, and I always keep Advil next to me on my little shelf because
you drink too much.
It's just, you know, I have a not dehumidifier.
I have
a humidifier.
Dehumidifier is what you put in your basement.
I have a humidifier. I have like one of those nasal things for allergies. I've got a water thing. No, it's one of those Vicks things.
Okay.
Yeah,
don't use those. That's
I love
bad.
that thing.
No, get Flonase.
Oh no, I've had Flonase too. I use that also, but that's only when it gets real bad.
Okay, just if you're using something that vasoconstricts your your body will learn to recognize it and stop vasoconstricting.
Oh, okay. I don't use it every night.
Just like you shouldn't use Visine all the time because eventually your bloodshot eyes just stay bloodshot.
Oh, so it's the Vicks Vapor Rub, but it's like for your nose. I don't use it every night. It's just on nights when I'm like really stuffed up, I'll like use it.
I feel like you should just get the traditional one and like do the cop at a body thing.
Yeah, like right under your nose.
Yeah, right under your nose.
Yeah. So I have that. I have like some super extra like mouth, what's it called? Chapstick.
Mouth breather.
Mouth stuff. Mouth stuff for my lips. So when they're really like chapped or whatever. So like I have all the essential things just always sitting there. So like I woke up and I was like, okay. So I took 2 Advil and I like used my water and then I was like, and I was laying there and I was like, oh, it's just too cold. So I had to turn off the fan. So I like got up and ran over and turned off the fan. And then I like went back to bed and I like put the thing over. And then of course, like I'm still awake until 4 a.m. And then 4 a.m. my fever finally broke. And then I'm just like in a pool of sweat and I'm like tearing off blankets. And I was like, all right. And then at like 8 a.m. I got another fever. So
that sucks.
When I was in my like getting up and going around, which it was painful, but I got up, I went and got the remote for the fan so I can turn the fan back on.
I cannot find the remote for our oscillating fan.
Oh, I love it. It's so good. The oscillating fan remote is the best.
Well, and
remote.
our shit is on like a remote, not like the remote that came. So there's a remote that came with the fan, but also we have a remote for the light.
Yeah.
That's separate. So we have like a smart remote so that he can be like, Alexa, it's not Alexa, but Google, hey Google, turn off the bedroom lights, and he can do that. And we got the light bulbs from IKEA and shit because we're not Philips rich. We're IKEA rich, but we're not Philips rich. So he has those, and I have no control over the ceiling fan, but I used to have a remote for the oscillating fan, and I don't know what the fuck I did with it.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's my responsibility because I bought the fan and I kept the remote on my side. I don't know what I did with it. I put it someplace for the winter because I wasn't using the fan.
Right. And now you can't find the remote again.
Yeah. Nope. Can't.
Yeah.
Nope. Not buying another one either.
That's tragic.
I'll just get up.
Because I will say, when you have a fever in bed, that's like the greatest thing ever that you can just turn the fan off.
So I didn't have much of a reaction to the first one. Did you say you got Moderna or Pfizer?
I got the Pfizer.
Okay. So I got the Moderna. I didn't have much of a reaction to the first one. I'm not going to have the second one until the week after I don't know. I have an email. It's like a week or two after our wedding because I think I got it on the 29th of March and they want you to wait 3 weeks, which I was happy for. If they were going to say 2 weeks, I was going to be like, can you push it out some? Because I think that landed me at like the 15th.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want it 2 days before my wedding.
Too many other things going on.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't want to become sick.
Yeah.
Like I have to take pictures. It's bad enough that I don't sleep well and that I am like combating giant bags under my eyes. It's another thing to like wake up with a fever and fucking chills and bullshit. So, but the first one I had a headache and my face was flushed, but I wasn't having a fever.
Yeah.
Like I kept like, we have an infrared. So I was like, at my forehead and, I did not have a fever, but I was flushed as fuck.
Yeah.
I was nauseated. So if that's the worst that happens to me on the second one, I'm fine.
Yeah. I mean, I really just had a fever all day, on and off.
But is it like because you had COVID in the first place, it like reactivated things a lot harder?
Well, and that's the thing. So everything I've read, I feel like that might be the thing. The only thing that I got really bad, the second shot that I didn't have the first shot, was joint pain. Which I will say, for anybody who's ever had joint pain, like I didn't realize how bad that gets. Like, because I have like I'm definitely getting arthritis in my hands,
right?
And I know that, and so every once in a while I will feel it, and I'll know, it's coming, and I know it's going to get a lot worse as I get older. I will say though,
flex that shit out.
I know, right? Constantly doing exercise.
I'm going to start taking you to yoga. I will start going to yoga again,
so that you can take me to yoga.
Yeah. If I have a buddy, I will go.
Yeah,
I will pay for you to go.
But I will
as
say,
long as we don't like bitch out at the together. We can't bitch out.
No, I'm okay. Yoga is okay for me.
It's not even hot yoga. And you get to go downtown and we can go to the Troll Pub afterwards.
Oh, I just went there for the first time the other day. Delightful food.
Didn't you love their tables? Like if you're in the bar.
So good.
This is totally off topic and not where we were going with this. But Troll Pubs, they exist around the country. Mm-hmm. We have one in Dayton, Ohio. And I will say this, if you're not keeping an eye on your beer, it will drop through a table in the bar because it's natural wood tables, which naturally have holes in certain parts of it. And I almost lost a beer on my birthday 2 years ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was sad.
Yeah,
I caught it.
Excellent food.
Oh,
I had an open face caprese sandwich.
Nice.
It was like...
Wait a minute, is that what I think it is?
It was thick French bread with then giant mozzarella
tomatoes
and
mozzarella
on
chunks?
it,
Okay.
and then balsamic drizzled all over it, and had pesto in between on top of the...
Okay, I could do without the pesto. That makes me belch.
I mean, I do love pesto though. It's garlic.
Oh, you should
Anything
hang out with
garlic,
my
I'm
partner because he buys the big jars at Costco.
Oh, so good.
We did not know that I was sensitive to pesto. Well, basil.
Yeah.
It's basil I'm sensitive to. We did not know until we made pesto chicken.
Yeah.
Which was cutting open a chicken breast and stuffing it with pesto and then putting pesto on top and then putting mozzarella on top of that and then putting it in the oven.
That sounds so good.
And then all I did for the next 24 hours was I was belching basil for days.
Oh, delightful.
No, I don't.
I mean, the belching thing doesn't sound good, but the pesto and the chicken and mozzarella sounds
you
delightful.
like it. You should hang out with him. I
Yeah,
don't.
it's good.
He's up for dibs. I'm just marrying him. I don't really care what he does in his off time.
Thank you for everybody who listens to us because you're delightful human beings.
My fiance just showed up because I can hear his car from in here. That's what happens when your fiance has a 10-year-old WRX. You're like, I just heard his exhaust.
I love it.
So yeah, thank you for listening to us. We want to give a cheers out to Kat, Andy, Justin, Judy, Lisa, Jody, my fiance, who shall be renamed. He shall be renamed Aimless.
He will be renamed forever.
He will remain nameless.
Yes, that's accurate.
For a while until I have the legal deed to him. We do know that we have regular listeners, and we definitely appreciate you. So thank you very much to Ramon, Leo,
Lisa, Laura.
We know who you are, Patty.
Sorry, we've been recording for 4 hours now, so it's hard to remember names.
Yeah, if you're getting this, you're getting the tail end of shit. However,
seriously, all of your questions about do we actually get drunk? Yes, we do.
I think that when we do a Patreon, we should just get drunker.
Oh, we'll just continue and give you the last half hour of whatever the hell it is.
I don't think that we're going to continue to do 4-hour shows. I made that suggestion, but then we'll be very off topic about anything in our lives and or the community. Yeah. But if you're listening to this, it was the second half of a recording session that has gone 4.5 hours. And now my fiance's here to play darts and expects me to be responsive. So here I am.
Sounds good. All right.
Awesome. So thanks to everybody and cheers.
Cheers. Wait, if you want to contact us,
do that first.
Get in touch.
You're going to have to paste this into the other ones.
No, it's fine. You can find us on Twitter and
Instagram. It's DBBL_podcast.
Yes. And then Facebook. You can find us at DBBL space podcast.
No, not space.
There's no space? It's just DBBL podcast.
You don't have your notebook.
I don't have my notebook out.
Hang on. Pause.
All right. We're just pausing.
Yeah, you can find us at DBBL Podcast on Facebook, DBBL Podcast.
DBBLpodcast.com on the website or drunkbitchesbelike.com because you all are okay with us swearing.
Yeah, bitches be like, and this is what we be like, drunk as fuck and ending our podcast after 4 hours. This content from there on will be on a Patreon.
And we're going to go get more drunk. So thank you for joining us.
Yay! Cheers!
All right, I've heard the spills are some of the highlights.
Yeah, especially for my friends who I've known for 20 years, and they're like, well, that's just normal. That's just standard procedure for Mindy to drop a drink or knock it over or, yeah. Do you still have half the bottle or something?
Well, I had half the bottle and then I dumped it and now I'm foamy.
You've been at this a little longer than I have.
I have.
I feel like
I do have to pee though.
Oh, we should go down there then.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. We'll start over.
We'll take a break. I was going to do Taco Bell and then I went a little higher end.
It was okay. Our catering, we were going to do Qdoba because I was fucking over it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to make like all the fucking cricket t-shirts in the world, that I'm okay with.
Yeah.
But I mean, you might tell them that you're spending more money than you have. I'm not looking at anybody. but and I'm very much looking at you. Which is why we found the song. Damn it! Damn it! All right, let's just go back into it. I thought about getting 2 zero gravity chairs with 2 booms.
So you can just lay back and be like, ah.
So every chair that I looked at where it was like portable, comfortable chair, they kept taking me to camping chairs with like the foot thing, and I was like, that's going to make too much noise.
Yeah, those are squeaky.
Yeah. So I don't like squeaky.
No, squeaky's bad.
Oh my God, where do we leave off? Doesn't matter.
I think we actually finished a topic for once.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm naturally a listener.
I'm naturally a talker.
See, that's why it works.
I don't like silence at all. Oh my gosh.